In this video, I want to explore a bit the impact of breathwork on my sex life. And together with my friend Rene, I'm going to dive deep and just share some benefits on how a regular breathwork practice has really impacted the way I have sex, and with that also the way I approach life. And to kick it off, for me, what I noticed for myself is two things that come to my mind immediately. One is the important change is that I managed to stay more with the experience. So sex is a pretty intense, it's probably one of the most intense experiences we can have. And say my approach before breathwork to it, and then again I started doing breathwork, and then it took me a couple of years on that journey, was that I had sex, I felt all the arousal, the build up of energy in my body. And at some point that energy got so strong I needed to release. And I even was in that, I need to think of something that is now non-sexual to kind of prevent the orgasm so I can go on for longer, and it never worked. And just, yeah. And I just thought that's it, And what I noticed with breathwork is that my ability to just be with the experience and kind of like witness even the build up of energy and the intensity, but not having to like immediately kind of like allow that energy to move and to get the release immediately. That's one thing. And that obviously had me to just have sex for longer, but it's not even about the length. It's more about the level of, enjoyment that's also there, and the ability to just be with the experience, enjoy it, and having a bit of a relationship to the experience rather than falling into the experience, being overwhelmed by it, and then having to distract myself in order to actually be there. And then the second thing is that my range of sexual expression has become bigger. So I allow myself to express that more fully. And we can dive into what that means in more detail. But what changes did you notice, or what impact did you notice?
Yeah, I had one or two questions. Should I ask you now or talk first?
Whatever you feel like.
If you could describe, why do you think breathwork changed? Like, what is the reason breathwork changed it? It's not because you were breathing and then you have a session and then you have sex after and it's different.
Mm-hmm.
What had to change in you that you could experience it differently?
I would say, so the first thing that comes to my mind is really in breathwork, I'm making the experience that it is safe to express. So let's say, based on childhood experiences, conditioning, the way I grew up, and then society, like I had a certain, let's say, window in which I thought it is safe to express. That was a very narrow window. And through the breathwork practice, my range of expression, emotions, whatever just comes up, just got bigger. And now I feel more safe to express. And now there are areas in life where expression is maybe not that important, right? And for example, in business, I still want to speak to the way I feel and everything, but there's not a direct correlation between, let's say, the intensity of the experience and the depth of the experience and the way I express, right? I can still do the same business, same job if I'm very calm and relaxed and grounded and centered, and that's probably even good to be that in business. However, when I want to have sex, I find joy in being expressive, in bringing sound and movement, and then impulses in the body that just want to move, and I get these like, I catch myself when there is something that I really feel like the flow and the moment would just really like bring through a certain sound or a certain movement or even a certain position, whatever it is. And then my mind comes and say, oh, don't do that, this is not safe.
Yeah, me,
like
you, shame would have
there's shame.
stopped you.
Exactly. There's like shame. There's a story around, okay, that is weird. Don't do that.
Yeah.
And in breath, I learn how to deal with these stories, and I can see, that's just a story. But my most authentic, real self just is that, and it is safe to bring it through. And again, like I think sex is an area of life where the fulfillment and the joy and the depth of the experience is enriched by being more expressive, by bringing, and that I'm just really speaking for myself, so that everyone has their very own approach to sex, right? And there are so many preferences and tastes and ways to enjoy it. And so from my experience, a greater range of expression, and that I can only bring that if I feel safe doing it. And now obviously this is not only me feeling that I can bring it, that's also my partner, and we co-create a space, right? The person I have sex with, we co-create a space together. So it takes two people, and it requires me to feel safe in my expression. So that's what I think has made a big difference. And the second thing is, that's a very new experience for me, to be honest. Only discovered that a couple of weeks ago, but I learned how to deeply relax. I simply accessed states of relaxation through breath that weren't available before. And what I started playing around with is, what happens if during sex I relax so deeply? And I can access now these deep states of relaxation much faster. And I did that, and what I experienced is basically a full body orgasm, went on for minutes. I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I don't know. And came in waves, and was completely internal, and kind of like I felt it everywhere in my body, like in multiple internal orgasm, without ejaculation. And it just was mind blowing. And also I felt very heart open, very soft, very alive and full of love afterwards. I was like, what the fuck? And this only became available because I knew these deep states of relaxation. And while there's the intensity, while there's the energy that want to release, I dropped into this deep relaxation, and that then enables the energy to move throughout the body and not be like concentrated in the lower chakras and then just come out. So yeah, does that answer the question a bit?
Yeah, it's great. Of course, I agree, and I've made similar experiences, but I want to backtrack a little. So the first thing I want to say for me is that, as I said in another video we did, that women and getting approval of women was for me a way to compensate for my low self-worth. Probably the main outlet. For me, it wasn't money and business, it was approval from women. And with that, I was really dependent on her perception of how I would perform in sex, because if she would like it and say it was great, that would mean I'm good enough. And so I was really focused on performing. That meant I was not focused on enjoying and my experience, but only watching her and making sure that I am perceived as the man who can do it. And then anything that I felt like I want to do that was alive for me, I couldn't listen to if I didn't think that was what she, or I thought she wants me to do in this moment. And maybe I was even wrong, but for me it was all about not fucking it up, basically. And that stopped me from, as you said, fully expressing, fully enjoying being with the experience. I was always in my head. And through my lifestyle in the past, I've quite a lot of different experiences all around the world, and it was fun for sure. But what I only after breathwork noticed now is that I was completely disconnected from myself and my body. And through breathwork, I learned what it actually means to be connected to me, to my emotions, to my range of emotions, and then also being able to bringing that into an experience with another person. So I now feel that I can enjoy every little touch, every kiss, so much more than maybe the peak of sex that I had before. And that's that's the part that's the part on my side. What I also noticed, and by the way, if I would hear myself talk like this 5 years ago, I would think it's completely impossible and bullshit. And who is this guy? But it's just amazing because I'm 40 years old and I thought I have experienced everything in life, and it was kind of like, okay, life is now going to just be kind of the same. And to realize that there's so many more levels of enjoyment and connection, it's actually really fun, and it gives me hope that I can have a fulfilled life with new experiences until I grow old. So the emotional experience is that I learned that also there's always two people in sex. And yes, I want to be connected to myself, but I also want that the woman can actually feel safe, let go, and also is not in her head, but enjoys. And if both people are able to do that, it's a whole different story. And what I noticed is the way I communicate with her, the way I act with her, even in real normal life situations when we have a conflict, the way I handle the conflict with her, how I receive her if she shares something vulnerable with me, even if it's non sexual. This all creates deeper connection that creates trust, which creates also trust in sex, which creates much more openness and fun in that regard. So it's all connected. And if I had never done breathwork, I wouldn't have been able to communicate that way because I would have been afraid to say what I want to say, and I wouldn't have been authentic and honest, which means she wouldn't trust me because she knows I'm hiding something. So it all starts on a very surface level in every conversation I have with a woman, and it all is connected in some way.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Totally. So would you say, like, through the breathwork experience and by, let's say, through the ability to speak to what is there in a moment, and also your desires and needs and all these type of things, you create safety
Yeah,
for your partner?
100%. Um, because if I'm saying things that I want to say, that are maybe things she hasn't heard a lot from other men because they are things that potentially are risky to say. Maybe I share some desire I have that is a taboo, or I'm afraid she might not like.
Mm-hmm.
But by me saying that, she knows I'm not hiding anything from her, which makes her feel way more safe because she knows this guy always tells me where I'm at. I don't have to second guess. I don't have to fill out the blanks. And also, me being okay with her disagreeing with something and not reacting to it, but just treating as it's just what it is. And if you don't want that, that's also okay. And also leaving that space open. It's very important if you communicate things in sex, I think, that are my desire. I don't have to say it in a way that it's also my expectation.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That's an important differentiation here. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So and I think the if a woman feels that I express my desires but I don't push her, I learned that the desire to try it out because she trusts me is going to be bigger, even if it's something she previously was skeptical towards. So it's all about how much can she trust me in the process, and that I'm not demanding it, and that I would also stop if she doesn't like it, and that there's just safety in communication.
Mm-hmm. Agree. I think safety is such an important keyword here, because what I noticed for myself is like, even if I would say I tend to be more on the, let's say, little more active, dominant kind of person in that, the moment I expose my desires and what I want and what turns me on, I put myself in a quite vulnerable space, actually, because this is something that's a deep part of who I am. And if I am then in a, let's say, non-compassionate way, if I'm then rejected in a non-compassionate way, that can hurt me quite deeply, actually. So I think the safety that can be created through communication, as you said, and through like two well-regulated nervous systems coming together and communicating, is extremely important from my point of view. And the moment there's safety, then there's freedom to express, and that just increases the intensity and the level of fulfillment and joy around the experience, right?
Yeah. And also talking about taboos and so-called dirty things, for example. an experience that I have made is that there's also women have often shame around maybe expressing what they want and not being seen as dirty or cheap or whatever it may be. And I think there it's also really important that both men and women, but I'm speaking now to my experience with women, that they feel through the way I treat them and talk to them in real life, they know and trust that I respect them as a person. And if they feel I truly respect them, they start to not connect dirty things in bed with something bad or disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
But it can really be separated between this is the experience we're having now to just try out all sorts of different things without judgment. But again, this is all first created in conversation and how you relate to each other in real life. It's not just like I used to think, okay, I'm going into the bedroom and now I've watched some porn and I would like to do this, and it doesn't work that way. And maybe some women would do it, but then they would feel bad about themselves after. And this is the last thing that I would want.
Yeah. I think this speaking to what is there and this element of truth and safety that we just touched upon, I think it also creates this clear communication and speaking to what is there. It also creates safety through, women. Many of them are very intuitive, and from what I learned, and I don't know if that's 100% true, but I believe in it, is women can sense easier and faster what's happening in someone than most men can. So your partner might sense already something and you're not speaking to it, and then they have to guess, what could be there, and they feel that something is off. And if you communicate to what's alive in you and what is there, and it basically then matches what they have been intuitively feeling, it creates safety and allows everyone to be then present and in the moment and being together, right? So what I discovered for myself is I'm in a certain way, and this, it shows up in many areas and also in just general romantic relating, but nowadays, like through sex, I get there's a part of me that really feels devoted to her intuition. And I even like worship that in a certain way. And an act of worshipping is speaking the truth, because her intuition will know it anyways. So I honor it by communicating clearly and saying what is, instead of like hiding anything, right? Yeah.
I think another element for this whole honesty piece around sexuality is also that the fact that I've spoken to many women who say that, or they think it's a pity that many men can't actually express really their needs and are ashamed of many things, and also especially when we're talking about emotions. But in some ways, from what I've learned now, is that most women actually see very big strength in a man being able to be vulnerable sometimes, because it almost means he's not afraid to say things he's afraid of, which is actually courage. And more in the old school, let's say, super over the top masculine thing is like, okay, I should be the strong guy, I should have money, I should always be strong, I should never show emotion. That's like kind of the traditional way of masculine. But I think it's way more powerful to, yes, have all of these qualities in life and have emotional stability and provide some structure and be somebody who does what he says he does in life. And I think if you embody that on an everyday basis, then there is also a lot of space for emotion. And if you, let's say, if I would cry every day and feel like everything's the world's fault and why only me, and if I'm like this every day, I will not feel good as a man. But if I do the right things in my life, then it's a beautiful thing to also show the emotional part. And it becomes even, in my opinion, more masculine, not from a place of like dominance and control, but just from compassion and leading with the heart. That's like how I like to see myself. And that is very attractive to women because it's trust. But they all, because if I cannot show emotion, they will also feel that I cannot understand their emotion. And that's really important to them. And that just creates a lot of attraction. Yeah, I want to say one more thing with it.
Maybe to pick up on that, then this level of trust and connection that you generate through like showing up in this way in life will then also deepen your sexual experience, right? I think something else that comes up for me when you mentioned that is like, and I've been in my past, especially I've very much been in the spectrum of like man that you described before, like, you know, more cut off from emotions and more coming from this like, I need to dominate the world and like these, you know, people. What comes out for me is, I really used to take anything that, let's say, went wrong within sex, I used to take it very personally. And I felt like a failure and I didn't want that. And then I was blaming her. And like, I really, yeah, I'd say I wasn't, I was simply taking things way too personal. And what I realized recently is that, for example, I had a moment during sex, but then my partner said, hey, I've fallen out of the flow. And a few years ago, that would be nightmare for me. Complete nightmare, man. It's just completely fucked up my ego. And it happened, and basically stopped. And for a split second, I had this moment again, like, oh shit, I fucked up. But then I was able to see, it's just a mind story. Well, we're still here together. And I stayed with her, gave some very gentle touch. I was just there and let's just allowing the we lost the flow moment to be we lost the flow moment. I just stayed there for, I don't know, a couple of minutes, maybe even longer, I can't remember exactly. And I allowed everything that happened afterwards to just be okay. I lost my erection, that was okay. Just all good. And just staying with her in it. And not even also without the expectation that sex comes back. Just, but what I would have done in the past is I would have withdrawn and basically shut down. And with that, I would have kind of like cut off the connection at that moment. And that was, for example, it's a painful experience for myself, but it's also punishing her for speaking her truth. And I wasn't able to see that many years ago. There's just no chance. Story would have kicked in and I would have felt like a failure, basically. So now I was able to stay with it and stayed in it, and, you know, as I said before, some just gentle touching here and there, nothing big. And the energy came back. And we came back into the flow and had great sex afterwards. And it was actually a nice experience because it was confirmation for both of us. We can just speak our truth. It is received. And even if we wouldn't have had sex afterwards, it would have still been fun. And that is something that I'm now able to access through breathwork. And with that, I feel way more safe because I feel like, okay, we start having sex, we get in a great flow, it feels nice, everything is perfect. And then sometimes something happens. It can even be an outside noise, something, whatever. And then that is fine too. You know what I mean? And that makes a huge difference. And yeah, I think for both partners, but especially for me, makes a huge difference on how I feel. It almost feels like, and I still have these stories around, I have to perform and I need to do it really well for her, and these are still there, but they are not all the time
And not
running
in
my
control
system.
anymore.
Exactly.
This is such a great point what you made now. This is And this is exactly the difference between a potential situation that completely disconnects you and also creating fear for the future.
Yeah.
Oh, now in the future it has to be perfect, otherwise it's going to be like that again, it's going to be worse, and then there's already you're more in your head. But with this, it's like created a positive experience in a challenging situation, which then teaches you and your partner, okay, if some shit happens in the future, we can deal with it and it's going to be no problem. So there is no fear going into future sexual experiences because you just know you were able to handle it. And also, what I loved what you said about you almost punished her for speaking her truth.
That's what I did, man.
Yeah. And
You know?
and that is, I think, such a huge problem in relationships and in sex where people do that. We say, oh, people are not, or she's not honest to me, but also what's your role in that? Like, how easy do you make it for people to be honest to you? If I used to not be able to take any feedback, so if somebody came to me with something, I would punish them in the way I behaved, shut down or shame them or be defensive. So what happened is people don't share with me anymore, which made me trust them less, which made me question what they really think about me, which made me be in my head. And again, not
100%.
connected. So it's
100%.
all in the nuance. And yeah, I love that. They said.
Speaking about stories in the head and like making assumptions about other people, like another thing that comes to mind right now is I always had the story that when I receive a blowjob, that she's doing that as let's say just for me, and she actually would love it to be finished rather sooner than later. The shorter the better, because she's actually not enjoying it.
Yeah.
So I was then being in it and I was stressing myself to like come faster.
Yeah.
So because I would think that she's not enjoying what she does, and that massively decreased the level of enjoyment that I could feel. So then I spoke to it and I say, hey, like this is a story that I have, and what's your view on it? And then my partner was like, hey, actually, take your time. I really enjoy it. I only do things I want to do.
Yeah.
And just said, hey, you can trust me. If I tell you I want to do that, and if I start doing it, and if I don't enjoy it anymore, and if I'm not doing it because it feels great, I will stop. So you can just trust me. And that felt so good to like have this invitation to fully trust her, that as long as she does it, she's also enjoying it. Completely changed my level of enjoyment and what I feel when I receive. Yeah. And receiving is such an important thing. Like receiving in sex can be, you know, can be very opening and a very, very joyful experience. And I was blocked because of all these stories to actually receive. And now receiving feels much better. And that was, once again, I had these assumptions around her without even asking her, you know? And that was a game changer as well for me.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, yeah, I had exactly the same thoughts, and I actually believe this is a blockage many people have. We could go a few levels deeper, but I think for the first one, that's pretty good. Or you want to continue?
I think for the first one, that's pretty good.
I think so too.
Thank you.
Thank you.